Crisis management is the management of choices we make at a turning point where our destiny can go one way or another. And how we choose determines the outcome. Therefore, criteria matter a lot. The basis on which we choose matters. And the key to getting the criteria right is to ask the right questions. Now, the value of asking the right questions was taught to us by a very smart guy, Albert Einstein, who was a Nobel laureate in physics and who Time magazine named the person of the century for the 20th century, the most consequential human being on the planet, according to Time magazine. And Einstein famously said this: if he had an hour to solve a problem and his life depended upon the solution, he would spend the first 55 minutes making sure he got the questions right. Because once he got the questions right, he was confident that he could solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. At the Logos Institute for Crisis Management and Executive Leadership, we study very carefully the right questions to ask. And what we find is asking the right question at the right time results in a list of options that are much more predictably positive. So once we get the question right, we can get proposed solutions in less than 5 minutes. The challenge, of course, is to get the question right, and many leaders much of the time get the question wrong. So, for example, a crisis is breaking and they need to figure out what to do. They ask the wrong question. They ask the question, what should we do? Or worse, what should we say? And there's a whole lot of challenges to those kinds of questions, but the biggest challenge is this. When the question they ask is, what should we ... What should we do? What should we say? The frame of reference they create is a self-referential frame. It's all about we, it's all about us, it's all about me. And as a result, they tend to make choices that are self-protective. They tend to choose things that are counterproductive. Starting with what should we do or starting with what should we say predictably leads to solutions that will not work but will make us feel better. And that has two negative consequences. One is we end up making things worse, but two, we fail to recognize that we're making things worse, and therefore we commit more and more self-inflicted harm. The key to asking the right question is to understand the relationship between an outcome we seek in a crisis, and that is trust, and the expectations of stakeholders who matter to us. The key to asking the right question is to resist the temptation to ask, what should we ... but rather to think of stakeholders and ask what their expectations would be in the circumstance. And the intellectual rigor and emotional discipline that allows us to do that becomes critically important in finding the right solution because it leads us to the right criteria.